All right, we are going to be working with partial quotients division once again, but this time we're going to have a decimal in the number. It's actually going to be inside our division sign here. I'll do another video with a decimal in our divisor out here. So what I've always encouraged the students to do is to take that decimal out of the problem. If you notice, I did not write it into this problem. Now the kicker is they need to remember that they need to put it back in at the end of our solving of the division equation. So I'm going to solve through this really quickly. We encourage the students to solve with a menu of numbers. So we multiply by 1, 2, 5, 10, and 20. It makes it a little bit easier for the students to do instead of listing out as many numbers as they can think of or listing all the way till they get to the right answer. There are some that will do that, and that takes way too long. We do not encourage them to do that. Instead, though, we do encourage these numbers because these numbers are quick and easy math facts for them to solve. For example, 14, I'm going to double 14 because when we multiply by 2, we're doubling. So I'm going to double 4, that's 8. I'm going to double 1, that's 2. I'm going to skip 5. I'm going to go to 140, and I'm going to do 280. Now, next thing I can do is I'm going to take half of 140. I know half of 100 is 50, half of 40 is 20. So I'm going to add a 50 and a 20, gives me 70. All right, I'm going to stop there. That's where I'm going to have my menu of items of choice. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply down. I'm going to try and pick the biggest number that I got. In this case, I got 280. But instead of making it 280, I'm going to make it 2,800. And to do that, I can, because I can use my multiples powers of 10. I'm going to multiply by 200. If I were to actually solve this out, 14 times 200, I would get 2,800. But I don't need to do that work because I know that every place value shift is 100. I'm going to write my number on the outside to remind me of what I multiplied with in my division problem. Then I'm going to do some subtraction. And then an 8. I'm not going to bore you with all the extra stuff. Okay, fine. There we go. And then now I've got 882. I'm going to solve and keep going. So all of these numbers work. 280 I could do again. But I'm actually going to change things up a little bit. And I'm actually going to do this 70 because I know a 7 is really close to an 8. Once again, with my powers of 10, I know instead of doing 5, I'm going to do 50. Do some subtraction there. All right. 182. Okay, we need to keep on going. We still got some more numbers to solve. I have 182. 280 won't fit. 140 will fit. Let's do 140. And that's times 10. Alrighty, I'm going to do some subtraction here. I have 42. Then we're going to keep on going because 14 can still fit into 42. Now, I don't have it, but most likely some of your students would end up multiplying and finding out that they need to multiply by 3 to get there. But for the sake of the video, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with my 28. Okay, borrow. 14 left over. Oh, with 14 left over, we know that we can multiply by 1. I know that's a long process. Bear with me. Okay, we're going to add up all of these numbers that we have here. Okay, I'm going to add up all of these guys. I'm actually going to use this other board since I have the space. I'm going to take 200. I've got 50. I've got 10. And most of them can do this in their head. I'm going to write it out just for number's sake. 3, 6, 2. Now, we need to figure out where this decimal is going to go. Some of your students are going to realize that it's only one decimal place behind. So they're going to just take it and they're going to scoop it and plop it in, which would be correct. And that is okay. We've taught them that. We've mentioned it to them. But I also need them to understand why it goes there. So we're going to do some estimating. We're going to estimate back in this number. So my math problem is 368.2 divided by 14. All right, so with 368, I'm going to round this down to just 368. Okay, 14 times something is going to get me close to 368. Well, I know I have some resources that I can use. I need to figure out how many times 14 can go into 368. Well, if I look over here, I already have by 20, and that number's pretty close. So I'm going to use an estimate of, I'm going to say that 14 can go into 368 almost 20 times. It's really technically, more than 20 times. So I can do that. Let's do that. It's going to need to be a little bit larger than 20. It could be, it's not larger than 500. It's not larger than 50 because 50 is 700. So it's definitely not that. So it's lower than 50 and it's higher than 20. So when I put the decimal in, I need to figure that out from here. So if I put the decimal and leave it here, that's 263. That's too large. If I put the decimal here, well, that's 26. That is higher than 20 and less than 50. So that would make my criteria. But I want to keep trying it again. All right, let's put a decimal here. Ooh, 2. Only 2? Definitely not. That is way too small of a number. Therefore, through estimating my decimal back in, I rounded a number, and I did some mental math here, some probability here, to learn that my number is 26.3.